Today, Africa boasts an impressive economic growth coupled with a growing middle class and a new generation of entrepreneurs. Ambitious ICT strategies are being planned across the continent, while internet penetration and use are increasing. This evolving landscape offers unique opportunities for e-commerce industries. It is predicted that by 2025, online retail could reach $75 billion in annual revenue, accounting for 10% of the retail sales in the continent's largest economies. In this scenario, the development and diffusion of the e-commerce infrastructure will enable African companies, even micro-enterprises, to reach new consumers and scale up rapidly. Examples of continents include e-commerce ventures such as China and Congo. At the same time, the internet increases the speed and accuracy of business changes, thereby significantly reducing trade transaction costs for both sellers and buyers. Albeit Africa's digital economy is undeniably gaining momentum, the development of e-commerce is hampered by a number of legal and social obstacles. Besides the digital divide among African states, many countries have yet to adopt legal frameworks that will handle issues concerning electronic contracts, online advertising, and digital consumer protection. It is thus necessary to implement appropriate legislative measures in order to address the challenges rising from e-commerce, creating a more secure legal environment and enhancing consumer confidence. The aim of this lecture is to provide a broad overview of principles and rules governing electronic transactions. In particular, it will focus on pre-contractual information that must be disclosed by online traders. After this lecture, you will have an idea of the problems faced by private actors in global e-commerce market and the importance of taking swift action to address trust and transparency issues in order to enhance consumer confidence in online retail. In the last 2 decades, there have been a number of initiatives providing guidelines to develop principles and rules for e-commerce legal frameworks. For instance, in 1996, the United Nations Commission on International Trade and Law formulated the Model Law on Electronic Commerce, which set out basic rules for the formation and validity of contracts concluded by electronic means. In Europe, e-commerce is regulated primarily by 2000 E-commerce Directive, which established a range of obligations on the operators of commercial websites, in particular obligation to provide users with certain information about the operator and its services. Generally speaking, these initiatives were not aimed to create a new category of contracts, nor to establish a new paradigm of contract agreements. E-commerce law should be designed to facilitate the use of electronic technology by addressing uncertainties surrounding the legal status of electronic transaction documents. The EU e-commerce directive, for example, covers only requirements relating to online activities such as online information and online contracting to increase trust in online counterparts. In fact, one major issue of digital economy is the power of information asymmetry between online intermediation platforms and their users. Consumers are often hesitant about using the internet to buy because there is a lack of transparency regarding contract terms, identity of contractual parties, or possible additional costs. The asymmetry of negotiation is indeed structural in business-to-consumer relationship, but it may be also present in certain business-to-business interaction, for example between e-commerce platform and their business user. Imposing minimum transparency and reliability standards is thus fundamental to enhance both consumer and business confidence in online retail. In Europe, for instance, suppliers of goods and services in e-commerce transactions have a duty to provide easy, direct, and permanent access to relevant identifying information and also to indicate price information in a clear and unambiguous manner. In addition, they have a duty to explain clearly, understandably, and unambiguously the formation of an electronic contract. The information concerns: first, the technical step necessary to conclude the contract; second, the filling and accessibility of the contract; third, the identification and the correction of the input errors. Fourth, the language of the contract. Furthermore, contract terms and general conditions must be made available in a way that would allow the other party to store and to reproduce them. Mechanism of transparency is also relevant in commercial communication, such as electronic advertising and direct marketing. First, advertisement must clearly indicate the identity of the natural or legal person on whose behalf the commercial communication is made. Moreover, the nature of commercial communication must be clearly identifiable, both for solicited and unsolicited commercial communication. For example, if a mail is used to dispatch promotional offers, the commercial purpose must clearly be identified either in the subject or in the body of the mail. The conditions for participating in such promotional offers must be easily accessible and presented in a clear and unambiguous manner. The digital environment is also characterized by a high degree of self- and co-regulation to encourage fair business, advertising, and marketing practice. In conclusion, the development of the digital economy promises to create growth, jobs, and business opportunity in Africa. While, to a very range of extent, the pace of development in this area is determined by infrastructure investments and technological solutions, the law may offer a significant contribution towards facilitating the diffusion of electronic transactions among consumers and businesses. In the quest of promoting public confidence in e-commerce, African policymakers should get involved in building a legal and regulatory framework which imposes transparency requirements to e-commerce industries.